Hey guys, so you've read two papers now, one by Deterding and one by Hamari et al. To help us understand a little bit more about gamification as an introduction, I want to contrast the concept with some other phenomena that can be easily confused with gamification. As a summary, gamification is not the same as play. It's also not the same as a game, and it's definitely not the same as a serious game or as a game-inspired design. Let's look at these four in a bit more detail, and then hopefully, in addition to your knowledge gained from your reading the two papers, you will finish this unit with a bit more understanding of what gamification is. Let's start with play. This is the easiest one. A gamified system aims to change a situation, but does play do this? No. I mean, it might do sometimes unintentionally, but when we play, it is normally for the means of enjoying ourselves and having fun. In other words, the act of playing is the end itself. Play can be structured or unstructured, but gamification is always highly structured and purposeful. And when I say purposeful, I mean that engaging in a gamified system is not the end itself. It is a means to an end or higher purpose, usually the change that we've designed the gamified system to try and motivate. The next two, games and serious games, are a little bit more tricky. Both games and serious games involve something called game thinking, using the mechanics of games for engagement purposes, and then again, so does gamification. To see the difference between gamification, games, and serious games, we need to consider something called gameplay. Now, gameplay is a term that describes the way in which users or players interact with the system. In games, especially games that use technology, gameplay is usually quite complex and involves multiple behaviours. Think back to the game you played in your first assignment in your practical. How many actions or behaviours did you do? One of the best examples can be found in the game Minecraft, one of the most popular games on the market. Now, the game has several different modes of play, but within the game as a whole, you can jump, you can fly, you can build, buy, break, you can gather, hunt, teleport, collect, fight, kill, eat, you can barter, die, explore. The list of actions is almost endless. In gamification, the gameplay is much less sophisticated and much more constrained. Another variable also clearly distinguishes between games and gamification, and this is to do with dependency. Games can be played as independent activities. Like play, there's no purpose involved with a game other than just to have fun. Gamification, though, is dependent. A gamified system is dependent on the serious objectives of the specific context that you want to change. At this point, we should perhaps make a distinction between serious games and games. The main difference between these two revolves around the issue of objective. Whilst games have no objective, i.e. the game itself is the end purpose, serious games are full games with full gameplay, but which have an objective that involves change. Alternative reality games, or ARGs, fall under this category. Think about flight simulators, for example, where pilots initially train and then update their skills. The main objective of this ARG is not for pilots just to have fun, although that will help the engagement process, of course, but to relay crucial skills when they fly. So does this make gamification and serious games the same concept? Well, no. Remember what we said about gameplay? Gamification has a very rudimentary level of gameplay, sometimes none at all, whereas serious games very often demand complex and multiple behaviours from those who engage with them. They also, as in our pilot example, tend to rely more on simulators, whereas gamification is strongly embedded in the real world, although more about that concept in the next unit. Finally, we can compare gamification to game-inspired design. This is where tiny chunks of a game are put into another context of design. They tend to be very brief and not especially long-lasting, and the focus is definitely on the design element. Crucially, game-inspired design differs from gamification in that the former doesn't have any game mechanics within it. Remember how we explored rules and goals, for example, in your first assignment in your practical where you played a game. Gamification also has these elements, but game-inspired design does not. Confused? Well, let's take a look at some examples. I think you can draw on your own experiences of playing games, but for a serious game, I really like the example of Remission. Remission is a series of video games for children and young people with cancer, and it helps to empower them and encourage them to stick with their treatment programs, which can be quite difficult. You can play the games for free yourself, and I encourage you to do this and to also explore the website and the parent website of Hope Lab, which describes how serious games can change behaviour in a very serious context. At the opposite end of the spectrum, have a look at the video called Playing. This illustrates play, and you can find it in this folder. Note the lack of rules and structure, and importantly, the absence of an objective of any kind, other than just to have fun, of course. Finally, take a look at the Fun Theory video. Now, this is an initiative from Volkswagen, who wanted to change people's behaviour in a positive way. It almost ventures into gamification territory because of this objective, but there are not enough game elements to make it strictly a gamification example. I would say the example that I've posted is more of a description of game-inspired design. Take a look and see what you think. So that's about all I have to say right now. Click on the links that you can find in this folder to explore the examples that I've discussed and, well, have some fun too. I'll see you later.